Hey guys, Hans Johnson here. We're gonna do a live broadcast here. I had several people ask for another one after the other two that we did. So if you haven't watched part 1 and part 2, I would encourage you to do that. You can; those are still up on Facebook, and you can share those with friends, family. You can share this right now with friends and family if you'd like. I don't do these very often, although lately, obviously, there's a lot of concern, a lot of questions about this world that we now find ourselves in. So my basic premise has been now for several months, since I first started following this back in December, and first started sharing the concerns and the risks with close friends and family and clients starting in January, and then more so in February, publicly outside of those smaller groups. My premise with this is that I'm talking specifically, and if you notice the title for this video as well as the prior ones that I've done, how to survive coronavirus and the coming global depression. My premise is that this event is still being severely underestimated. I'll talk about that. Maybe we'll cover some new ground on here. Again, I would encourage you to watch the prior videos. I think this event, this situation is being radically underestimated by the powers that be, and or at least what's being projected through media, through the experts, through people that are encouraging people to get back into the stock market, that this is just going to be a temporary short-term event. This is my opinion. I'm not a health expert or a medical doctor, or even, I'm a private person, private business owner, private investor. I've been very blessed throughout my life, not because it's been easy. I grew up in poverty on the streets in Hawaii, grew up in a broken family, broken home. I started my first business at 8 years old. I had to learn very early on that if I didn't work, I didn't eat. That business was, I would come home from school and pick flowers off of trees and make flower necklaces, and go down to the local village. I would walk down to the local village and try to sell these to tourists. And that was to buy school clothes, food, help pay rent. We grew up on government assistance. My mom was a single mom, married, divorced several times. We moved every 2, 3, 4, 5 months. So just essentially grew up in a very unstable poverty environment. I was actually doing a podcast just yesterday, and or an interview. By the way, announcement: True Wealth Formula, the book is going to be available for sale through Amazon. I'll talk about that. I'll give you the date here in a bit. Anyway, I was doing this interview yesterday, and a lady was like, "God, your childhood is just crazy," and I was like, "Yeah." I guess my whole life I kind of just basically was like, everybody's childhood's crazy, no big deal. But when people hear some of the stories, they kind of, it is what it is. So you look at it and you figure out what, you survive. You figure out, you make the positive out of it. You take the lemons and you make lemonade. And there was certainly a lot of good lemonade to make out of my childhood. Business owner, entrepreneur from a very early age. Been blessed to have an amazing wife, who I'm sure many of you know and are aware of. Over at DannyJohnson.com, built that business for many years as CEO. Been business partners for years. That particular business has helped tens and tens of thousands of people, create success, increase their success in the workplace, on the job, in their business, family environment, across the board. So I've had a very, very blessed life, wonderful kids, amazing wife, great, just but it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been blessed because it was just always easy, and there was never difficult events or traumatic events that needed to be overcome. It hasn't been blessed because there was never failure, or never situations that were extremely challenging, and breaking, frankly. And so, we find ourselves here in this event here today, and I'm just basically, this is my opinion about what's going on, and it shouldn't be taken as any more than that, although I'll express it pretty passionately at times. So you're being given a lot of information out there, and so the last video we did was about maybe 7 or 8 days ago. And one of the trends, one of the things that I'm seeing changing or evolving is sort of this disconnect that's happening in people's mind, where we're seeing the headlines, we're getting the news reports, the media is pumping and hyping things, but we look around our town or our hospital and we say, depending on where you're at, obviously if you're in New York City, it's ground zero again. And we talked about this in the last video, and we said this weeks ago. New York City's really getting hit hard right now. They just had, just today, the number of deaths surpassed what happened in 9/11. And I told my kids a month ago, I said, this is going to be your generation's 9/11. And that has a lot of different implications to it. The loss of freedom, the loss of personal liberty. For people that remember what it was like to travel before 9/11, you weren't felt up by some security apparatus that was installed to basically provide a perception of security. I've been around long enough in various different circumstances to understand the difference between security and perceived security. And most of what we have in our life is the illusion of security. It's to give us a feeling of security. And there is real security out there. If you want to understand what real security looks like, look at the Israelis. Look at how they handle security as it relates to their airports and travel. And they have a real environment that requires security. Part of my awakening years and years and years ago, when the whole, quote, war on terror started, and we were spending billions and trillions of dollars and losing our freedoms as a society, and looking around at the price that was paid. I'm sure you have family members that were impacted by that, and nobody wants to not be a patriot and not come to the rallying cry of their country when it's under attack or being threatened or whatever. But one of the wake-up calls for me was during that whole time period was, okay, if we're in this war on terror and we have this threat and we have to give up our own civil liberties in order to travel and do all these things, then why is our border wide open? Because if we're going to be attacked on our own home soil and we aren't controlling the ports and the borders and these other things like that, then there's something not adding up here. And it doesn't mean that everything's simple and that you can just have a simple answer for those things. But those kind of questions are important. They help us to identify disconnects. And I can tell you right now with this whole thing, there's a lot of disconnects, right? So again, this is just my opinion. You take it for what it's worth. I like to look at patterns and pattern recognition. You don't get truth nowadays from any single data point. And that makes things very difficult because we are conditioned, our human nature basically has us gravitate towards people that we relate with and trust. And so if we trust somebody or we relate to somebody or somebody's really charismatic or somebody presents themselves as very credible, or what they're saying, their message resonates with us, we tend to want to believe them. And we think, well, God, this person's not lying to me. They're going to give me the truth, you know. And we do that more and more in today's society because we live in this ridiculously over-complex, chaotic society. It's too much information all over the place, and there's just conflicts of interest everywhere. And the fact is that what I have found personally in both investing, and that's what True Wealth Formula is it's a money management and investing system. It's not a system that's going to tell you invest in this, buy this, sell this. It's a system that's going to teach you how to think for yourself. A long time ago, I got basically fed up with the over complexity of money management and financing and investing. And I started tracking, again, looking for pattern recognition and tracking, particularly people that make predictions and talk about this and that. And started to just see patterns. And I said, you know what, there's got to be a different way to do this. And so TWF was essentially started about 20 years ago. It started from an initial seed that was planted when I was a kid in Hawaii. I had a wealth mentor that told me that the number one key to wealth is to get your money working for you instead of you working for your money. And that's one of those things that sounds really cool, and you can write it down and you can quote it and you can put it out on social media and get a bunch of likes and everybody just loves it and it feels good. But it's not really an answer to anything, because you walk away, at least I did. I walked away from that and I did that same thing. I wrote it down and never forgot it. But I walked away. I was like, okay, well, how do you get the money, and then how do you get it working for you? And so it's more of a riddle than it is anything. And the book that's coming out, True Wealth Formula, is about that. It's about answering that riddle, and in book form to explain the systems that we use and that our clients use. Primarily the wealth building system versus just an investment system or an investment idea or what I call an investment tip. A risk management system, and that system has been used by our clients to sidestep this chaos that's going on right now. In the last video I talked about, and again, I would encourage you to watch that video. I talked about it's a Ferrari. You know, somebody can hand you a Ferrari, and just because you're in the driver's seat doesn't mean you know how to drive that car. You know, and if you firewall it, you're probably going to crash and burn. And that's what TWF is. You have to learn how to drive it, right? Do you want somebody to just give you fish, or do you want somebody to teach you how to fish? So, you know, in my case of a lot of trial and error, a lot of experience, you know, that system for me during this crash, during this chaos that's going on, and someday I'll provide the details. Now is not the time to do that. That system had not only had me step aside, but experience a massive upside, a massive, huge upside. And there's ways to do that. You can do that. You can position yourself in markets so that you actually increase while things are going down. It's not so much that you're capitalizing off of a bad situation as much as you are pre-positioning yourself because of your system and your risk management strategies. You're pre-positioning yourself to essentially be in the right place at the right time is the best way I could explain it. So what I want to talk about in this video, so a couple things, data and all the statistics and information out there. I spent some time today getting caught up on stuff, and it's all over the board, and people are just pissed off right now and frustrated because we're in lockdown, stay-at-home orders, which is a soft, you know, we're in a soft martial law system right now. This is a police state's wet dream that's going on right now, and depending on what city you live in, and depending on how severe it is determining how that manifests. Right? In some cities, they're using drones to monitor people's movement to see if they are, you know, quote, traveling to the grocery store or pharmacy, or if they're out doing other things. I had a lot to say in prior videos, and I don't want to necessarily, you know, beat the dead horse, but the bottom line on this thing is that it is serious. And yet there's no consistent data or information everywhere. It's political. You have a clusterfest of big government, big corporations, global banks that are colluding to capitalize on this crisis. Don't forget, there's a well-known saying out there that says, never let a good crisis go to waste. So do you think that something like this is going to happen right now? And I want to spend most of this video talking a little bit about how you should be preparing yourself. But before we do that, I have to sort of kind of talk about the situation a little bit. Do you think that a crisis like this is going to happen, and that in the name of public service and in the name of helping you, in the name of all of these things, that this crisis is not going to be used, right? I mean, just look at the patterns that are going on, okay? The bailouts, the trillions of dollars, right? Right now, everybody thinks that the worst has already happened and the stock market has already bottomed and we're already, we're going to have this V-shaped recovery. I've been saying that no, the closest thing we have, and my opinion hasn't changed on this. And I was thinking today, what would have to happen for my opinion to change on it? And I'll have to give that some more thought and maybe talk about that in a future video. But right now it hasn't changed. The closest thing we have, and what I've been saying, is that this is a 100-year cycle event. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that there's events and they cycle, right? And our human nature, we don't want to think about that. And in fact, we don't know how to think about that. None of us have actually lived through that, right? There's not really anybody alive that's lived through that. I have grandparents that are in their 90s. And they lived through the Great Depression, and they said, this looks like that, And so we don't really know how to comprehend that. Our mental framework and our mindset doesn't know how to comprehend that. And so what the mind wants to do, and we deal a lot with this in human nature when with TWF, we deal with the human nature component, because you can't deal with finance, you can't deal with money management, you can't deal with risk management or problem solving if you don't acknowledge the human nature side of it. If you just brush the human nature side to the rug and you say, no, what somebody says is what's true. Bullshit, right? Like, I'm sorry to say that out there like that, but no, right? We all, me, you, your greatest, icons all across the board, right? What we say is a vision that a perception that we're projecting of ourselves and the world, right? And in extreme cases, okay, because, and this is our society wants to have our ears tickled. We want to be told something that's going to make us feel good. The positioning, the place that our society is at right now for this event that's going down is not good. It's not a good place, right? We've never been, we are the softest, both mentally and physically, as a society. We are soft, weak, and pathetic, right? Now, we have some incredible things, and there's going to be incredible opportunity that comes out of this. Massive opportunity, massive good stuff. But we're not sitting in a great place right now, okay? So, dependency, good grief, man. You got people, like, the government's going to send people a $1,200 check. How long is that going to last? Okay. So we tell ourselves a story, and we gravitate towards a story that resonates with that mental image that we have of ourselves, which is both conscious, and then there's a subconscious program that's running in the background. Okay. And so, right now, so the biggest thing right now is that there's two types of people. So I want to talk a little bit about this. There's two types of people. One is the optimist, the person that basically is looking at this and going, okay, it's just going to be a couple weeks. I got to hunker down here, blah, 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 and trying to make sense of all the data and trying to, whose fault is this? What happened, right? Is this China's fault? Is this a bioweapon? No, this is just the flu. The government and the media is just hyping it up, right? There's all this energy being put into trying to make sense out of everything. And also looking at, well, the government's throwing all this money in it, and the stock market's rallying again. So God, I guess I missed the bottom. So essentially, a lot of burn and churn on trying to make sense out of this. And I've even had people I've had in every single medium you can think of, from friends and family to social media to all across the board. I've had attacks. Okay, I've had people in different ways, in different shapes, because nobody likes to be told a negative thing, and they come in a lot of forms, because that being given a harsh truth. Let's not even use that word truth because it's subjective, right? It's perception. But being given a harsh perception, okay, or statement or whatever, or just boom, is uncomfortable, right? We don't like that as a society. We rather have hope. We rather have faith, right? If you come from a faith-based frame, and we need that. That's important, right? But there's nothing more deadly than having hope and faith and constantly, because the mental framework wants to believe the best in the situation, in people, give the benefit of the doubt, right? It's very hard for the mind to hold two opposing truths or beliefs at one time. Very difficult. So in other words, either I want to believe, hey, this is a bad thing, but it's going to blow over, and we're going to have this V-shaped recovery, and the markets are going to be back, and everything's going to be okay here in a couple weeks, or maybe a month or two, right? It's very hard to hold that belief in conjunction with another belief that says, God, this is going to be really bad. This could be a global depression. This could go on for years, right? We're only at the front end of this, right? So there's two types of people here. So, and the way that I'll relate it is in investing, we talk about this. You have the amateurs in the investing world that focus on gains, okay? And then you have professionals that focus on risk management. Well, nobody really wants to be around somebody that focuses on risk management, because professional investors, I'm going to tell you guys this, they're not optimists. They're freaking pessimists, right? Professional investors, they focus on the risk. They analyze everything that can go wrong. And only when they see a situation where that risk is either hedged or managed, right? Or they feel like the upside is so much greater, then they will enter that situation. They'll put a lot more effort into risk management, into analyzing, right? Into valuations, into trends, into all sorts of things. Different people have their own systems. Whereas the optimist, which is more that entrepreneurial type mindset, which is my background, and maybe yours as well, we're optimists. We look for what's good. We get knocked down, we get back up, and when you do that at the wrong time with your money, it can be deadly. Okay. And so those are the two types of people. One is the optimist that's just trying to focus on what's good and grab on to any headline or any talking point, and say, okay, no, this, and okay, so here's the other side of it. And this is the political side. And, I'm not going to say I don't have a political leaning or whatever. Those that know me well or follow would be able to discern what that is. The big thing out there right now, frankly, is people saying, well, this is just an attack against Trump. This is just to destroy the economy, take Trump out, make him look bad, right? How in the world are we letting our entire economy go down when the deaths and this situation just isn't materializing? It's not matching the models. The numbers aren't playing out like the models said. The experts were wrong. Of course they're wrong. They're always wrong, right? Like, come on, And so going through this whole thing of, okay, this is all about, this is all political. So you have, and I mentioned this in the prior video, that the government right now, or the officials, or what's happening right now, is there's four things being managed. One is the panic is trying to be managed. Two is the economy. Three is the global financial system. And the fourth thing is the actual health crisis itself. And so you're seeing that rotation happen. So what I'm saying is that there's a human nature component in all of us, and that human nature component wants to believe the best. It doesn't want, if you really think about how bad something could be, and if you really think about it, it will probably make you queasy, and you will want to go throw up somewhere. right? If you really understand the level that how morality, okay, can be rationalized in an instant in time, and the level that human nature can get to, right? If you really think about the fact that there are 100-year events that happen, there are 1,000-year events that happen, right? There are 10,000-year events that happen, guys. There's a major ice age about every 10,000 years. That was the last major ice age that we had. And coming off of that ice age, now you had societies before that ice age. Okay, coming off of that ice age, and you can do the research and you can look and on and on and on, and you can look at how that ice age ended, right? And the way that a global flood was created. Okay, I mean, like you can find a flood narrative and a flood story, obviously in the biblical account there's the flood account, but you can find that across the planet in different cultures. Okay, so there are 10,000 year cycle events. There's 1,000-year cycle events, there's 500, there's 100-year, right? So at least as a minimum, we're in a 100-year cycle event right now. And so if we really think that through, do you really think, and just look at the response that's going on by governments, right? Look at the unemployment numbers that are coming in, the claims that are being filed. Look at these numbers that are coming in. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, and this is where it gets in. You have to decide which game are you going to play here. Yes, we all need to have some light inside of us. We need to have a portion of our day that is able to focus on the positive, to spend time with our Creator, right? To be in prayer or meditation, to be outside and breathe fresh air and get that sunshine and that sunlight, which hopefully you're in an area where you can do that, which is probably one of the best things you could do right now with regards to this virus is boosting your immune system, vitamin D, right? Vitamin C. If the government wanted to solve this, they could have distributed to every man, woman, and child like mega doses of vitamin C and vitamin D and probably zinc. It looks like right now at this point, and they could have saved trillions of dollars. But instead, they're bailing out the mega bank, the globalist banks and the globalist corporations. The small business entrepreneurs and the middle class are going to take it on the backside again. I mean, this is. Come on, guys. Okay, like really. Okay, do you really think? And then for those of you that are thinking like. And I know this is a harsh message, and you can watch the other videos and you can see, you can pick up fill in some of the details. But, we have this statement in True Wealth Formula that no one will do for you what you are not willing to do for yourself, right? So if there was ever a wake-up call, if there was ever a come to Jesus moment, if there was ever a moment in our lives where we can step back and say, okay, boy, now is the time to get my proverbial crap together. This is the time to do it, right? So, but if you're still in this place where you're like, no, government's going to save me, well, just look at the pattern. Did government save you in the '08 financial crisis? Did government save the people that were told during Hurricane Katrina when that hurricane completely obliterated and wiped that city out, when they were told, don't worry about it, just stay put? I mean, just think about this, okay? And I'm not trying to be like literally, okay? Like there's no Calvary that's going to come in unless you are a globalist, unless you're an insider or an elite, okay? And you have you're part of these elite organizations, okay? And you are a Fortune 500 company, or you're Boeing. Look at Boeing and these airlines that are going to get bailed out again, right? I mean, on and on it goes. So you have to take responsibility for yourself, and you have to basically step back and go, okay, so now here's the game you have to play in this scenario. You have to ask yourself, and this is the key to risk management right here, and I think I talked about this in the last video, but it's we can say it over and over again, is the key in its most simplest terms and in its most simplest form is to ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? If I'm wrong, then what? Right? So I play the optimism role, okay? And this is for me. I'm just taking you through my thought process. And it's the thought process that positioned us to be prepared ahead of this crisis. You can't be in the middle of a crisis. It's like running to the grocery store right now and trying to get toilet paper, right? Like, if you wanted the toilet paper, you had to get the toilet paper before the crisis hit. That in its most simple terms and its most simple form, like in a way that I could say it, like, okay, just think about that. Okay, so now there is things you could be doing now, because this thing, in my opinion, we're only at the front end of this. Okay, and if you doubt that statement, just ask yourself, out of what you have been told over the recent days and recent months, weeks and months. I don't care by who. Okay? This is where you have to, yes, there's politics involved. Yes, corporate media is total FOS, right? If you know TWF, you know FOS, we all have it, right? Full of crap. Okay? To some percentage, we all have it. Okay? The bigger the organization, the more FOS it is. Look at the WHO, the World Health Organization, right? They can't get their statements right to save themselves. They've been trying to cover their ass from the very beginning of this thing, all the way back in December and January, when they were covering, the CCP in China, who was lying about the statistics. We knew they were lying. Everybody knew. In the financial side of things, right? Everybody knew ahead of time, right? The politicians and the political hacks, they're so behind their curve on this, it's not even funny, right? So the bigger the organization, the more it has to protect itself. The less of an incentive it has to actually be transparent and truthful. It's more about, there's more conflicts of interest. There's more about protecting, self-preservation. This is government. These are big corporate media outlets, right? This is the system. This is how it works. This is you, this is me to the same extent. It's just we're small, If I say something, I'm not steering the entire world like the WHO does or the CDC does, right? On its policy. Right now, we can't, apparently in the United States, a hospital in the United States, when there's information on the ground about treatments or, non-proprietary drug treatments that are already past their trademark status, right? So there's no money in it, right? Apparently, hospitals here in the U.S. and doctors and nurses don't have the gear to protect themselves, and they can't do alternative treatments and therapies that can help mostly older people, immune compromised people in massive population density areas in cities, people that smoke. Right? There's certain common denominators. I've mentioned it on prior videos. Okay, but apparently in our country, doctors and nurses and people that are in the field, right, with their own lives on the line, can't make decisions and get the gear that they need and do the protocols that they are seeing results with, without getting permission and authority by these central organizations. Okay. And by our government systems, right, who are controlled by what? Globalist corporations, okay? So, I'm a capitalist, right? But what we have in this country and in this globalist system is not capitalism. It's crony capitalism. And believe you, what they're pushing for is not so. It's going to be crony socialism, okay? It's okay. So it's one thing. So we all have our bias, okay? We all have our angle. We all have our perception. The difference is does your life system work for you? Does it preposition you for these type of what they call, left tail, fat tail, right, events that come out of nowhere, these black swan type events, right? So going back to what I was saying, so here's the how you say, okay, you ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? So if you take this optimist approach, okay, and you believe the stats that you're seeing, and I say this all the time, get 10 experts. You can't get 10 experts in anything. Finance, accounting, legal, politics, right? Health, across the board. You get 10 experts in anything, and none of them are going to agree on anything. They're all going to freaking have their own data points and their own models and their own this and their own that, and they're going to have this different thing. Okay, So what do you do with that information? What do you do with that, right? So if you are in that camp where your psyche, it leans heavily towards, and this is the majority of people, where it leans towards the optimism side, where you say, okay, you have to understand that our brains are going to look for data and narratives and stories that confirm what our mode is. Okay, so if we have a mode, and this is all of us, none of us are immune to this, but this is how you manage it. Okay, it's not about being right. It's about what is the cost if you are wrong. And that's the difference. Most people, they focus on being right. What's the right investment right now while this is going on? Right? How do I be smart and get the dip? Get in at the low, right? How do I, and they're scanning the data, scanning the headlines, listening to this, listening to that, right? Listening to this expert, that expert, whatever, right? And trying to be right. And what I'm saying is that in today's world and today's day and age, more than ever before in history, because we live in a clusterfest of TMI, information overload. We live in a clusterfest of conflict of interest, a clusterfest of lack of transparency, a clusterfest of rackets. In today's day and age, it's not simple anymore. Our grandparents, they had a very hard life, right? Their life wasn't as easy as ours, but their life was simpler. And you know what else? They also had better mental health. We have the softest, easiest society in history, and we're losing our minds. We don't have real problems in this world, right? Except now we're going to have some real problems. We have made up problems up here, and I'm talking to myself just as much as anybody. So there's all kinds of benefits going to come out of this. But now more than ever before, we have to adopt a life strategy and a life system that is not based on being right. Because you can't be right. There is no being right. You can't. How do you assure that you're going to be right? Which expert do you follow? Which piece of news do you grab onto? Who is credible? Where's the credibility? Right? Is again, I don't want to get all political about this. And when it comes down to your health, and it comes down to your money, and it comes down to your family, I'm sorry. When it comes down to stuff like this, there's no room for freaking politics. Okay, so who out of any of the experts that are out there, out of any of the data points that you're seeing, I don't care if it's on social, Twitter, Facebook, TV, talk radio, okay? Think about this, guys. 4 weeks ago, your officials were telling you this is just the flu, don't worry about it. Just 4 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, they were saying it's just going to be 2 weeks, and by Easter, everything's going to be back to normal. Now they're putting in official stay-at-home orders through the month of April. And I have friends that live in the D.C. area, in Virginia, and Maryland, and D.C., and they have put out orders saying June 10th. So you have to ask yourself, so there's two people here. There's one, the person that just is trying to be the optimist, right? I'm not talking about having hope, but our hope and our faith has to be grounded and rooted in the right thing. So there's two people. One is the optimist that's latching on to headlines and data points and trying to make sense out of this thing, right? And believing whatever political side of the spectrum is the one they want to believe, okay? And the optimist, their life strategy, and this is a pattern, this is a religious pattern. This is anytime organizations become big, governments become big, right? Okay. The further up you go, the further away you get from the trenches, from actually having your hands dirty. You tend to get more hypothetical, right? And decisions are made at a management level when they've lost touch and lost reality with what actually doing the work really is, right? Anybody in the military that knows how this works, if you're actually the one with your life on the line, and then there's somebody in a suit who's now in a political position is actually making decisions. I mean, like it's, and part of that's necessary, and that's how it is. But just here's the question that I'm going to throw out to you is, what pattern have you been seeing over the recent days, weeks, and months that has had accuracy in credibility? Or are you seeing the goalposts move constantly? And then the second question is, what is the cost? What is the price? Right? So if your strategy is based on getting it right, what I'm presenting to you is an alternative strategy that is used by the highest level wealth builders, the highest level investors and traders, strategic thinkers, critical thinking skills, right? And it's a risk management first strategy. And that strategy is not about being right. It's a simple question of asking yourself, what if I'm wrong? What is the cost if I'm wrong? So let's play this scenario out. If I put all of my eggs in this basket, and I just want to play this out a little bit for you. Do you really think about this? Think about what's going on right now. The global economy, for whatever reason, and I said this in the last video, you can sit there all day long and you can try to figure out why and the what and the who, right? And all of the motives behind this and who's benefiting. You can grind all kinds of energy out on that. And believe me, there's a lot of it. But at the very end of the day, there's only one thing that matters, and it's what is your action item? What do you need to be doing today? That's all that matters. What is your action item? Do you need to go to the grocery store today and get some extra toilet paper? Do you need to cut some expenses and some overheads? Are there other decisions and action items? That's all that matters. Do you need to simplify your life? Because at the end of the day, nobody will do for you what you are not willing to do for yourself. Nobody will do for you what you are not willing to do for yourself. And you can't sit there. You can't sit there and be the victim. I'm not saying that we're all not, suspect or impacted by decisions that are made around us. We all are. But at the end of the day, what is your action item? You can't go through life. I can't go through life being the victim. Well, they said it was going to be a V recovery, and it wasn't. They said it was only going to be 2 weeks, and it wasn't. They said that this thing was going to kill millions of people, and it didn't. And we shut our entire economy down, and it was all one big hoax. And it was all just one big fake hoax, and it was overhyped, and there's way more people every year that die from the flu. And this whole thing just got blown out. It was a big fear campaign by China to knock Trump out and get him out and tank the economy. And you got guys on TV and on radio and on podcasts that are just talking hours a day. They're just spending hours a day talking about the global conspiracy. We know it. We already know it. We've known this forever, for years. You know it. In your gut, you already know the answer. If you want to be honest with yourself, you already know the answer. You already know there's two justice systems. You already know there's the elites that stack and things to their favor. You already know Republican, Democrat, right, left, this, that. You already know it. We can throw a label. We can throw this label on it, that label on it. You already know. And guess what? It's never not been this way. Never in history. It's never not been this way. The only thing that changes is the extreme, the spectrum. That's it. That's it. That's the only thing that changes. Do we have to be vigilant? Yes, we do. Guess where that starts? Guess. Take a wild guess. Do you think being vigilant starts with, God, I sure hope that the government sends me another paycheck because I'm out of work right now? Do you think that's what vigilant comes from? You think that's what that is? Right? So look at what's going on. Okay, look at the official narrative. And yes, right now, this thing swung the other way and everybody's going, what are we doing? This is crazy. We got to get the economy back up and running. Right? Yeah. But then the problem is you release this social distancing and you tell everybody, hey, go back to work and do this, and then the virus starts popping up. So duh, of course the numbers are down. Of course the projections aren't there. Of course the deaths aren't there. Of course the hospitals aren't overflowing yet. Duh. There's a catch-22 right now. So whatever the reason is, this is what it is. This is what is unfolding. The world is never going back to the same again. This is the risk management side that says, okay, what if I'm wrong? If I, right, and just let me just, do you really think, if you are a business owner, you know the answer to this. Do you really think that we have seen the end of the unemployment numbers that are increasing? You really think, is there a small business, I mean, and if you think it's just the virus, or you think, well, the Fed is going to save the day, or all this, or whatever, and all these headlines, and all this media, and all this stuff, like, guys, the stock market, the economy was at a 50-year high. The stock market was on an 11-year bull run, right? One of the strongest, longest running bull markets in history, right? The stock market had a 10% correction. And the entire financial system seized up, started hemorrhaging. 10%. $50 years, best economy. Right? Longest running bull market in history. And you have a 10% correction and the whole freaking system seizes up and starts hemorrhaging? Why? Leverage. Too much debt. Over leverage. So whatever you want to say, you can say, well, we just got to get this virus under control and then we're going to go back to work and everything's going to be fine. Great. Then the numbers are going to come back. No, they're going to have a cure. No. They're only going to have a cure when they can, or a vaccine, when they can make enough money from the vaccine. Because if they wanted to cure this thing, there's enough anecdotal evidence out there, not cure, I'm not going to use that word. There's enough anecdotal evidence out there that megadosing vitamin C, getting sunshine and or vitamin D, along with zinc, and maybe some other crazy supplements, because everybody's got a supplement that they're pumping and pushing right now, right? Keeps the immune system strong enough to fight this thing off. So, okay, social distancing is no longer a thing. Go back to work. We can't have our economy crashing. Got to get back to work. Got to do this. Think about the political motives alone to try to keep this economy crashing. Just think about that. I don't care which side of the political spectrum you're on. Okay? So you have that political issue to deal with. But, guys, the economy was not as healthy as everybody thought it was when it corrects by 10% and the whole freaking system seizes up. We are in a global debt-based economy. You and I have been programmed to be debt slaves. I have hammered this on the last videos. We talk about it. Chua Formula talks about it as an antidote and a cure to extract yourself from that mentality, because you cannot extract yourself from a system without first rewiring and reprogramming your brain and your thoughts. The thoughts that tell us that I need a bigger house, I need to drive a nicer car, I need to buy the dips, I need to speculate, and I need to gamble. I need to go into debt, right? So just think about this. So we're in this catch-22 situation, and the main difference between the person that is the optimist, and again, I'm sure there'll be people that'll take this wrong and say, "Oh, you're just being negative. You're not being positive. You're not being optimistic." If you are a student of history, you need to study history. There's a lot of young people right now piping off. A lot of young people talking about markets that have never survived a bear market. We're in a bear market. You don't buy the dips in a bear market, you sell the spikes. If you didn't pre-position to make money on the crash already, which happened already, it's not done, in my opinion. So there's a lot of young people right now, because we live in this world where anybody can pop a camera up right now and talk a big story on social media, get a bunch of likes and a lot of views, and be an instant expert. No real life experience. Just a freaking mouth that can talk all day long. So if you want to get some wisdom, talk to some older people. The same people that are the most susceptible to this virus. The people that survive fat tail events like this, 100-year events like this, are not the optimists. Optimists get freaking wiped out. Study World War II. Do some deep study. It's the people that recognize early and the people that position ahead of time. The people that sidestep, the people that take action, the people that have an action list and are taking action and not allowing themselves to get stuck in freeze mode, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. I talked about this in the past video. If you're watching this video right now, you need to go and you need to watch the first video and the second video and this one over again. If you want to get on a mailing list so that you can find out about future videos, you need to go to truewealthformula.com and you can opt in. You can get a free PDF report. You'll be on my mailing list. I sometimes send a lot of emails, and a lot of times I go for weeks or months with sending no emails. If you study the long form of history, optimists get freaking wiped out. Stop being negative, Hans. You don't get it. Just look at, and this is the other part. And what I mean by optimism is this idea that, no, things have to stay good. Just look at the story of Joseph in the Bible. That was strategy. That was risk management. That was not optimism. That was freaking being real and understanding the cycles of feasting and famine. The cycle of feasting is to preserve and protect and to prepare for the eventual coming of a famine. And here we are as a society and as a culture, we are more in debt, right? You know when you need debt? You want to know when you need debt? Is to pull your ass out of the bottom of a situation. And the Fed has already dropped interest rates to 0. We have nothing left, folks. Do you know how many defaults are going to happen from this? Do you really think so I want to go back to this analogy. Just sit back and you don't need an expert to tell you this. You already know this in your gut and in your heart. If you're a business owner, your top overhead is your payroll and your employees. And if you get hit with this in your business, not some businesses are thriving right now. So it just depends on the type of business. This gets into the business model. There are some people that think it doesn't matter. that all businesses or whatever. Oh, I'm sorry, no. The business model actually does matter. Matters a lot. Tell that to Kodak, who did not evolve with the evolving technology and is out of business and gone. And they were the strongest. I mean, we could go down the list. Being able to adapt, the business model matters. So that's a lesson for those of us that are business owners. How have we positioned ourselves? What action do I need to take now, today, in my business to get out ahead and in front of this? Or am I going to be down in the line at the Bank of America right now trying to get my loan from the government while the mega banks are denying small businesses? They're making it really tough right now. We know the racket. We know the game. We shouldn't be surprised. Do not be surprised. If you are, so you know this in your gut. If you are a business and you have to adapt and you have all this uncertainty, nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. You can't get straight information from anybody, right? The markets haven't even come close. The stock market right now is sitting at levels that were December 2018. We have a global freaking pandemic that is still in process. The global economy has grinding to a standstill. And the markets, think about this. It's April 2020. The markets have only corrected to where they were December 2018. That's 15 months ago. 15 months ago. Does that sound to you like, just think about this. You don't have to be a financial whiz. Does that sound to you like the markets have properly accounted for and priced in what's really going on yet? Or does it sound to you that there is still a lot of wishful thinking out there and people that are gambling and speculating that because the Fed and the government are throwing all this money at it, that it's going to be able to be propped back up? Do you think that the government and the Federal Reserve, these central banks, can underwrite every small business, every part of the economy? Or do you think they're just trying to provide liquidity to keep the global financial system from hemorrhaging? And that they're going to try to save the big mega banks and mega corporations? So if you're a business owner, do you really think that just because these same quote experts, the same ones, by the way, that 4 weeks ago, were telling you, oh, it's just the flu. Don't worry about it. The flu kills way more people every year. Okay, 4 weeks ago they were telling you this, and now they've shut down everything. And all the craziness that's going on, these same people are now going to come and tell you in 1 week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever, oh, everything's fine. It's all good. It's all good. No worries. Go back to work, everybody. Do you think for 1 second, do you think that there's not lingering trauma from this event? Do you think there's not things that people have to reconsider? Do you think all of a sudden everybody's just going to jump on airplanes again and go on cruise ships and start traveling and start spending money? Do you think every small business entrepreneur, which, by the way, the average small business takes years and years and years of working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, busting their ass, right? Surviving crashes like this, taking it on the backside, right? Absorbing the risk, right? Spends years just to be able to be profitable. The average profitable small business has 1 month in any given year, 11 months to cover their expenses, and 1 month on average is their profit. Okay? Just think about this. I know you see business owners that are rich and living in a nice house and driving a nice car and making all this money, but you didn't see the decades that they busted their ass. The times they went bankrupt. the sacrifices they made. You didn't see that part, right? So do you think that these same officials, when this stuff was breaking out in November and December, and anybody that was watching the pattern recognition saw the anomalies and saw the inconsistencies, said, there's something going to happen here, just like we did with our clients in January. Said, hey, heads up, guys. We're looking at a global pandemic that's going to be coming, right? And I wasn't early on that. So do you think that, and the same system, by the way, that had a private, confidential, closed door meeting with our Congress, which, by the way, those Congress people went out and sold stock. This is in January. And then in February, your elites, your Fortune 500 CEOs, you had a mass, at the very top of the market, you had the biggest exodus of retirement announcements from global corporate CEOs happened in February, right? So these same people that 4 weeks ago were saying it's just the flu, don't worry about it, but now the whole freaking world is shut down, okay? And in a couple of weeks or a month or two are going to say, okay, everything's fine, go back to work. We can't handle the destruction that's happening to our economy. Do you think that the average small business owner that has busted their ass for years and gone through hell and back in most cases, that had to make the very tough decision of laying people off or doing whatever, making whatever adjustments to just in the face of all this uncertainty and all this unknown, do you think they're gonna like next week just hire everybody back and the millions of people, like, just think this through, right? The rents that aren't being paid right now for this is not negative. This is just reality. You and I don't have the luxury of sitting here all day long and trying to figure out who did what and why it happened, whatever. We only have an opportunity to look at what is and ask ourselves one simple question. What if I'm wrong? What is the price of being wrong? If I plan on this thing's just going to blow over and it's going to be a V recovery, and boy, I hope I can buy the dip, and boy, we're going to be back to work here in a couple weeks, okay? Good. What if I'm wrong? What if that narrative is wrong? No, this is just an attack on Trump. This is just a this and a that and a that. Okay, you're right. You're right about all of that. It's all a hoax. It's a hoax. It's not real. It's just the flu. It's a political attack on Trump. It's just the Democrats. They can't stand him. This is another attempt to take him out and get the election and put bumbling Biden in as president of the United States. And the whole world can't stand Trump because he's disrupted the whole world order. So that's right. You're right about that. Okay? You're right about that. So what are you going to do? What do you do? What if you're right? What if you're wrong? So what True Wealth Formula, as much as True Wealth Formula is a money management and investing system, it's a thinking system. Because we cannot manage money, because we cannot learn to become the master over our money, because it's one way or the other. Either we will be its slave or it will be our slave. And I think I'm going to do another video next week and talk about that, and talk about some of the systems that we use in TWF. But there is no in between. Either that thing is our slave or we are its slave. And do you believe for 1 second that you can become something else's master if you don't learn to master this first and to deal with the mental framework first? Or at least set up some kind of a system that helps offset that and counteract that embedded program that's operating here behind the scenes 24/7? You can't. If you're a normal person, right? I can't. I know I can't. Okay? So, TWF is not about being right. It's one simple thing. How do I be right even if I'm wrong? In other words, it plans on being wrong. I know I'm going to be wrong. I know I can't be right. There is no such thing in today's day and age of being right. And here's a tip. Here's a secret. To the extent you can simplify things, the more simple you get your life, the more accuracy you will have. The more peace you will have. Complexity creates chaos. Complexity creates loss, creates stress, creates fear. And our global system thrives on complexity, thrives on it. So the secret is to ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? So if I'm an optimist and I believe, right, which I think that's insanity. Like, it's absolute insanity to think, and again, I'm telling you, we are on the front end of this. Like, the numbers are gonna, like this month, April, is going to be a real doozy. And people think, oh, it'll all snap back. No, it won't. It's not going to snap back. Do you know how many businesses were running on the edge to begin with? Do you know how many were over leveraged? Look at the household incomes. Study after study after study. The average household doesn't even have $1,000 in savings. The average household lives paycheck to paycheck. And guess what? It doesn't matter what the income range is. The stats are a certain range. Regardless of the income, it doesn't matter if it's $30,000 a year, or $150,000 a year. That range of living paycheck to paycheck is the same. So if you don't have a system that you use to govern that money management, mental management, then you're basically going to live out as a victim of whatever circumstance happens. Because human nature is, I'm always going to expand or contract to my environment. Always. The more debt you give me, the more I'm going to consume. Just think about it yourself. Just answer yourself this question. They come out and they say, oh, we're sorry, this was a big hoax. Just like all the other things that were going on, right? The big old media hoax. And China was on it and on it. Well, we know that we can't, that is what it is. Not the Chinese people, but the Chinese government. Okay? Right? Then Iran, then Italy, now Spain, the UK, all of Europe, right? They're all in on it too. All the videos, all the reports by doctors, all the stuff that's come out. Okay? And it's just going to be another couple weeks or two or a month or so, and then the officials are going to have their press conference with their coronavirus team. Yeah. And they're going to give us some good news. And boy, everything's just going to go right back to normal. People are going to start traveling again, and businesses, all the everything that got laid off is going to snap right back. So, if that's your take and you believe that, then you ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What's the cost of being wrong? Okay, now here's the other take. The other take is what I'm saying or putting out there, is that this is a 100-year event. There is no model that we have for what's going on right now. Whether it's a hoax, whether it's whatever it is, fact of the matter is, it is what it is. How do you adjust? How do you deal with that? It's not going to be weeks or months. This is going to play out over a period of years. And I'm not just talking about the virus. I'm not just talking about the economics. I'm talking about the geopolitics of it. The global unrest. What do you think the average person is going to do when they blow? What do you think they're going to spend that first $1,200 check on? Right? There's people right now, they're getting paid more to be on unemployment than they are to work. That's good for society. That's a good deal. Right? So if you take this risk management approach and you say, okay, what does that look like? Well, first of all, we confess that we don't know. We really don't know what that looks like, and nobody really knows. So, how do I, with very limited capacity, because I can't even imagine, I haven't lived, I'm a product of my environment, despite whatever efforts I try to be some badass and hard ass and this and that. I'm just soft and lame, right? Like we can act like we're tough, and if we have never been in a situation, I mean, how do you know? You know? But we can try to prepare, right? And we say, okay, well, how do we prepare this, right? And what I've been saying is you need to avoid speculations. You need to hunker down. You need to cut overhead and expenses. You need to raise cash in tier one, what we call in TWF, tier one capital, which is cash and cash-like assets. It could be chaos hedges like gold and precious metals, physical precious metals, right? This is gonna be a deflationary event first, and then probably rotate into an inflationary event. On the timing of that, who knows how that's gonna play out. They're gonna throw the kitchen sink at it. They're gonna try to throw tons of money, and we are in Neverland right now. We're in freaking suspended reality in the world today. Okay, so you take the risk management approach. Say, okay, if this is a multi-year situation and it's going to get worse before it gets better, well, what does that look like? And then you work on a little action list, right? And you start to come up with some action items, and that's going to be very overwhelming. And the mind is going to want to throw up. Literally, your body's going to dry heave. And it's going to be very overwhelming, and it's going to be very stressful, but you come up with that list and you slowly start chipping away at it. You say, every single day I'm going to do at least one thing. And you do the best you can. And you also look at the positive that will come out of this. There's a lot of positive. There are going to be certain types of business models that thrive from this. There's going to be all kinds of opportunity. One thing I can tell you on the real estate front, and boy, I can tell you this, man, if you are into real estate and you think, and we've been warning about this with our clients for years, especially with all the hypesters out there that run these big mega seminars teaching people to real estate. They don't teach real estate. What they do is they hype you up and suck you into, giving somebody else your money to find you a real estate deal in a house and this and that. And it's speculation, right? And so there's different ways to do real estate, and ways to protect yourself. And there's market cycles and market trends with that. And I would propose that on the risk management side of the equation, that the kind of deals that you're going to see a year from now in the markets are going to be it's going to be crazy. There's going to be, in my opinion, much better deals to come. So the risk management side, you're hunkering down. You're building up cash. You're cutting overhead and expenses. You're playing out the scenario of it being worse than than what you're being told, and taking longer than what you're being told, and being a more difficult situation. And then you ask yourself, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong? Right? And people will love. I've had friends and family. Oh, well, you said this and the da da da. Right? People will love telling you, right? And that's going to be one of the hardest things. That's why in the other videos I said, I hope I'm wrong about this. I'll be so happy. Please post on my wall, post this, and just say, oh, you were wrong. You were total FOS, man. It didn't happen. Oh, praise God. Awesome. I will be happy to be wrong. Sucks. No ego likes to be wrong. We all want to be right. This is not about being right. This is about risk management, and risk management in its most basic form is, what if I'm wrong? On the investing side, we hedge. We do a both and approach. We play both sides, and we position or we tilt things based on the market environment. The mind has a hard time doing that because we don't like to hold two opposing beliefs in our mind at the same time. So in TWF, we have formulas, we have rules, and actual formulas that allow us to do that. So the question is, what if I'm wrong? If I look at the whole landscape and I go, God, if I had to choose and I had to look at what's going on, God, the closest thing to this historically across the long time span is a 100-year event. It looks like a Spanish flu, Great Depression, World War II type pattern playing out. Yes, it's not exactly the same. Oh no, Hans, we have central banks now, and we have this and we have that. I get it. It's not exactly the same. History, they say, history repeats, and then the other saying is history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And I think that's correct. There are patterns. Why are there patterns in history? Because human nature doesn't change. No matter what, it's the same. Always going to be the same. It's not going to change. Never going to change. And if our life system, including our spirituality, including our faith, does not take into account and acknowledge the human nature component, we're walking in blindness with a blindfold on. We are not walking in the light. Because we're pretending like it doesn't exist. We're pretending like our spirituality is so good and that we can say affirmations that are just going to get rid of all that. Don't exist. So, if you play that model out, you play out that worst case scenario model and you say, what if I'm wrong? Meaning, you play that model out, you make that action list, right? You go down through that list, and then you go, well, God, what if I take these steps and I prepare and I do the best I can? Nobody's perfectly prepared. I'm not perfectly prepared. There's all kinds of stuff on my list that's not done. Right? But we do the best we can, and we play that out, and then we say, what if I'm wrong? Right? And now you get to look at both scenarios, and you get to say, okay, what's the price of being wrong? Because 100% chance in our lifetimes, we're going to be wrong more than we're right. Because there's no being right in this world. It's too complex. It's too complicated. There's getting lucky. We can get lucky, but being consistently right. So in my experience, years ago, I just was like, yeah, that's a fool's errand. It's a fool's errand to try to be right and try to get everything right and try to get all the facts and validate all the data. You can't nowadays. There's too much data. You just can't validate anything. So then you start to say, well, okay, since I can't validate anything and I really can't trust anything, I still have to make decisions. How do I make decisions when I can't validate facts and we're living in the age of the death of trust? I have to have a system that helps me to, quote, be right even when I'm wrong. So that's what True Wealth Formula is. Again, for the investing, it's a mental framework. If you're in a situation right now, guys, where you have an income problem, a job problem, or you need to get your business sales up, I would refer you over to DannyJohnson.com. That's what that site and the training systems and the events are designed for. And tens of thousands of testimonials regarding that. There is an event coming up in April that's going to be done remote broadcast. If you are in a position where you want to give and help people, you can do that through kingsransom.org. Kingsransomfoundation.org is a nonprofit that my wife Danny and I founded many, many years ago. We've given millions and millions, and our clients have given millions and millions and helped people. And there's going to be a lot of people that need help during this crisis. If you want to find out when the book is going to come out, so the book is, I made a decision to just pull the trigger on this thing. I've been waiting, and I finally just said, screw it. I don't care, whatever, And so it's going to be available on Amazon, I think April 20th or 21st. I might be wrong on the dates. My phone is occupied right now, so I can't double check it. But you need to go to truewealthformula.com, and you need to get on that mailing list. Just put your name and email address in. And you can, with that, you'll get a free PDF that we call the Money Quadrant. It'll explain what I consider some core concepts as it relates to investing and managing money. And you'll get that report for free. And then you also get to get some information on our training programs that we do called the True Wealth Implementation Program. You can get that at truewealthformula.com/special offer. If you go to truewealthformula.com/special offer, you can sign up to be a True Wealth Formula Implementation Program subscriber. It's an annual subscription where we take you through a program of videos and audios and PDF worksheets where you learn this stuff. You learn how to deal with the mindsets and how to develop a millionaire mind. You learn how to set up systems in place to manage your money, how to think right, how to make investments. You get your rules set up, and it's an implementation program. We have a private Facebook community. I'll be doing another live Q&A on there in the next couple weeks or so. And we've had many people join that, and they're already going through that right now. If you're in, house arrest, quarantine, if you're at home or you're laid off or whatever, you got extra time on your hands, don't let this opportunity pass, right? Like, for every bad thing that happens, there's also good. And some of the good that's going to come out of this is that you have an incredible opportunity right now to pivot in your life and reposition and to learn some new skill sets. If you're going through financial difficulties and hard times and you think, well, God, I'm suffering right now because I got laid off, or this damn coronavirus, or this stupid hoax, or this crazy economic shutdown, that's why I'm having problems right now. I hope that after listening to this video, I hope you can stop yourself for a second and just pause as you say that and you think that, and realize that just 1 month ago, we were in the strongest economy in 50 years. And that if in just 4 weeks, you are now in a financial hardship, you have to, if you have intellectual honesty, you have to step back and go, damn, I'm hurting right now, not because of the coronavirus hoax or pandemic or the attempt to take out Trump or the shutdown in the economy or all these bad things that are going on. That is not why I'm hurting financially right now. I am hurting financially right now because I do not have these skills and the mindset and the system, the knowledge and the wisdom to manage money. I know that's a tough pill to swallow. I know that hurts. I know that is really bitter medicine. But I have to ask you just one simple question. In what's going on in today's world right now, do you really want somebody else in your life that's going to fill you with a bunch of bullshit? And just tell you what you want to hear? And make you feel good? And tell you, no, it's not your fault, you're just a victim, it's Trump's fault, or it's this person's fault, or it's China's fault, or it's this's fault, or whatever? Do you really want just somebody else in your life? I know it's freaking hard, man. And I have had people in my life tell me the same thing at different periods of time. And it hurt. It freaking hurt. It hurt to hear it. I had some close friends. And I had to grind, I had to just, I had to step back and swallow hard. And look at my life and look at what was going on. And I had to go, damn. Yeah, I got to change something. So if that's you and you say, well, God, I'm worried right now about just making ends meet and doing all this kind of thing. I get it. And I've been there. My wife and I have been there. We've been there. The question is, what is your action item? What is your action item to make sure you are never in this situation again? What is your action item to make sure that you're doing everything you can do? What is your action item to make sure you are positioned to be able to capitalize when this event turns around? Because there's going to be opportunity. There's going to be buying opportunity. There's going to be crazy opportunity. What's your plan? What are you doing when you have extra time on your hands to learn a new skill set? How much time are you burning on just trying to figure out all the information and be right? And if there's anything that I've said here today that resonates, if there's anything that resonates about if when I say in today's day and age, and you know this, the craziness, TMI, man, TM freaking I, all over the place. It's overwhelming. So many experts, so many people giving advice. If any of this resonates, and if the idea of, okay, it's not about being right, it's about it's about what is the cost of being wrong, and how do I hedge myself so that I'm still right even when I'm wrong, because I'm going to be wrong. If there's anything about that resonates, then I would say go to truewealthformula.com/special offer, sign up, get your subscription activated. You'll get access to our Wealth Builder app. You'll get access to all the content that's in the app, and you can start working through the content. You can print out the PDFs. You can go through the worksheets. It's like 83 cents a day, right? You can't even buy a really terrible, absolute crappy cup of coffee at a gas station for 83 cents a day, right? So, what is the benefit? Like, had you known this ahead of time, and had you had that system in place, and had you could have A, sidestepped it, right? Or B, profited on it as it collapses, as the chaos hits, right? What would that have been worth? So I appreciate you guys. Thanks for being here today. I hope I said something here today that helped. Maybe you can comment, share it with friends, family. We'll leave the video up for a while. The book will be out, I guess, in a couple weeks or so. A little more than 2 weeks. And I would definitely appreciate you guys picking up a copy of the book when it's available. We'll put we'll send out emails. We'll post it on Facebook. It's going to be on Amazon. We're not going to build out crazy funnels and stuff like that. I spent too many years being a marketer, and but the book is there. I spent many years on it, and I'm excited to hear what you think about it, and you'll at least have that, to be able to learn this system, learn these strategies, learn this formula. And but if you really want to get the system and you want to actually implement it, where you have a learning lesson, and then you have an action item, and then you have a learning lesson, and then an action item, and you want to be a part of a community that gets together once a month to flush this stuff out, then you'll want to get started and sign up for the implementation program. Other than that, God bless you guys. Hope you had fun here today. It's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. We always do, right? So this isn't the end of the world. The world has a habit of not ending. Like, despite bad things, yes, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a challenge, but there's a lot of good that's going to come out of this. So much good. And already is. There's a lot of good already coming out of it. But I don't think that we're there yet. I don't think that we have hit the worst part of it yet. And even if the virus tomorrow was like, oh yeah, all the numbers were bad, well, let's go back and party, yay, cool, this thing's not just going to snap back overnight. So the reality is what it is. You have to deal with reality. You can't deal with fairy tale. You have to look at and just go, okay, what's happening, right? Yes, we want to figure out, we want to go why and try to, but what's happening is what's happening. The only thing that matters is what are we going to do about it, right? And how do we position ourselves the best possible to survive and thrive out of this? So I think I will maybe do another broadcast next week, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I'm not sure yet, and maybe talk about some of the new about True Wealth Formula. I might talk a little bit about the idea of how specifically how you make money your slave. Because if money is not your slave and you don't have a system that you are doing daily, weekly, monthly right now that makes that money your slave, then you are its slave. There is no in between. And so that's one of the first things that we do with people is help them get those systems set up. So I might do a broadcast on that here. But other than that, I look forward to those of you that do end up signing up and joining. And that's it for today. Have a great weekend, guys. Hug your family, kiss your family, and take in some fresh air. Life is good. We have a very, very blessed world that we live in. Despite the chaos and the bad parts, there's so much to be thankful for. God bless. Bye.